They thought they could hurt you and walk away as if nothing happened. They assumed you'd break, spiral, or spend your life chasing revenge. But here's what they never saw coming. The universe has a memory. Every betrayal, every lie, every scar they carved into your soul has become a seed of their own undoing. You never needed to fight back because something far greater than you had already begun fighting on your behalf. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with silent justice. This isn't just karma. It's divine correction, unfolding in ways they'll never anticipate, not until it's far too late. The first consequence for those who hurt you isn't public humiliation or financial loss. It's the quiet collapse of their own peace of mind. They thought they could walk away untouched, that they could betray you, use you, lie to you, and continue living as if nothing ever happened. But the first battle they lose doesn't happen outside of them. It happens within. No one escapes their own conscience. You can block a number, delete a photo, avoid a place, but you can't erase your own memory. You can't outrun your thoughts. And you definitely can't silence your conscience when it starts whispering at 2 a.m., when the world is asleep and there's no distraction left to numb the guilt. That's when the cracks begin to show. They may laugh with friends, post cheerful updates online, or pretend everything is fine, but deep down, they feel it. A growing discomfort they can't name, a gnawing anxiety, a heavy silence behind the smile. A true story. A woman once shared how her closest friend abandoned her during the darkest chapter of her life. That friend never apologized, just vanished. For a while, she seemed untouched. But months later, she confessed to mutual friends that she couldn't sleep. Not because of drama, not because of punishment, but because of guilt. Every time she heard a song they once loved, passed a familiar place, or saw a quote about loyalty, the memory returned like a ghost. No punishment was required. The mind punished itself. Your silence becomes the mirror they can't look away from. You didn't clap back. You didn't try to get even. You went quiet. And that silence, it echoed louder than any confrontation ever could. Because silence doesn't scream, it reflects. And when they face your silence, they see what they lost. They see who they became. Then the questions start creeping in. Why did I do that? What if I was the problem? Did I just destroy something I'll never find again? That's not just regret. It's the beginning of internal collapse. This is emotional intelligence in motion. When you possess it, you understand you don't need to argue to prove someone wrong. You don't need revenge to feel powerful. You simply let people experience the consequences of disturbing your peace. And believe me, the loss of peace is the universe's first warning shot. Sleepless nights, restless minds. You might not see it, but they feel it. It begins as a passing thought, then returns as a recurring dream. Eventually, they start to dread their own silence, because that's when your name echoes in their mind, and the weight of what they did hits hardest. They can fool the world, but they can't fool themselves. Not forever. This isn't revenge. This is nature, quietly correcting itself. In Stoic philosophy, every action carries a consequence, not always immediately, but always inevitably. When you hurt someone who was real with you, loyal, kind, and genuine, you don't just lose them. You lose a piece of your own peace. Suddenly, their energy is gone from your life. The blessing they once brought no longer surrounds you, and that emptiness begins to echo. a quiet wake-up call for us too. There's something here we can all learn. Your peace is your greatest currency. Protect it. Don't waste it proving you were right. Don't shatter it trying to make someone feel guilty. Just walk away, silently, powerfully, and with dignity. Because when peace starts to crumble in their life, when their own conscience becomes their punishment, that's when you'll know something greater than you is already working. And it's doing a far better job than revenge ever could. There's a moment, often unnoticed, when life begins to quietly close its doors on those who use their free will to cause harm. It doesn't come with thunder or dramatic warnings. It arrives subtly and relentlessly. They think they're still in control, still winning, still untouchable. But behind the curtain of their ego, life is recalibrating, enforcing the law of withdrawal. When someone deliberately hurts a good person, they don't just wound an individual, they interfere with a sacred energy. They touch what should never be violated: loyalty, trust, love, and human dignity. And when that happens, the universe doesn't respond with rage, but with silence and strategic removal. Opportunities begin to fade. Connections grow cold. People drift away without knowing why. It's not always punishment. Sometimes it's alignment. Life no longer supports someone who betrayed its own design. No door stays open forever. They may laugh in the moment, convinced they got away clean. But slowly, one by one, the doors begin to close. The job offer they counted on, gone. The loyal friend they once manipulated, distant. The admiration they enjoyed, replaced with suspicion. The easy path they walked, now full of resistance. They'll blame bad luck. They'll blame timing. But deep down, some part of them knows this is fallout, a quiet storm, perfectly timed. Have you ever seen someone who once had everything, respect, influence, opportunity, suddenly lose their footing? People say they just changed, or their energy feels off. But no, they didn't change. Truth simply caught up to them. The weight of dishonor always catches up. Sometimes it appears as a lost contract, other times as sudden illness, betrayal, or a chain of misfortunes. Not as revenge, but as recalibration. They thought it was about you. It never was. When someone wrongs you and walks away, they believe the story ends there, that their future is intact because you stayed silent, because you chose healing over retaliation. But the truth is, you were never the target. You were the test of whether they would honor what was sacred, and they failed. Now, life removes them from paths they were never meant to walk, not out of cruelty, but to protect others from the same damage. That's emotional intelligence, observing without needing proof. When you possess it, you don't obsess over karma or wait to see them fall. You simply watch the doors. You'll notice they don't smile the same. They repeat toxic patterns. They sabotage their own progress. They feel stuck without understanding why. This isn't coincidence. It's cause and effect, operating on a level they can no longer perceive. Nature teaches this lesson perfectly. Think of a tree whose roots have rotted, its branches still green, its leaves still dancing in the wind. But underground, decay has already begun. And one day, without warning, it collapses, because what sustained it from within no longer exists. That's what happens when someone loses the protection your presence once gave them. You weren't just part of their life. You were the blessing that held things together. And once they betrayed that blessing, the roots began to rot. Don't knock on the door they locked from the inside. Let this be a warning for you too. When life removes someone from your path after they hurt you, don't chase them. Don't reopen closed doors. Don't interfere with divine correction. Because if you try to reattach what life is releasing, you'll only absorb the fallout meant for them. Stay still. Stay silent. Let the doors close. It's not the end. It's protection for you and accountability for them. At first they feel untouchable, walking away from what they did, convinced it's over. They mistake your silence for weakness, your peace for surrender. But what they don't realize is that life is setting up the mirror. And when it's ready, that mirror won't just show them who they've become. It will make them feel everything they once made you feel. Life doesn't always punish. It reflects. The most divine form of justice isn't loud. It's not thunder, wrath, or fire raining down. It's this. You betray love. Life shows you what it feels like to be unloved. You lie. Life surrounds you with deception. You abandon someone loyal. Life makes you feel forgotten. They won't see it coming. But when it arrives, they'll look around and ask, why does everyone treat me like this? Why can't I find someone who stays? Why do people keep using me? The answer isn't out there. It's in their past. What they did to you has become their new reality. They made you feel invisible. Now no one truly sees them. They made you doubt yourself. Now they live in self-doubt. They toyed with your emotions. Now they're surrounded by people who don't take them seriously. They taught life how to teach them, and life listened. They mocked your silence. Now their own silence is unbearable. You sat in stillness, trying to heal, trying to make sense of pain that never should have been yours. They laughed at your withdrawal, called you weak, too emotional, too sensitive. Now they live in silence too, but not the peaceful kind. Theirs is haunted. They replay conversations, reread old messages, revisit places where your energy still lingers, except this time, you're not there. The silence that once empowered you is now the silence that condemns them. When emotional consequences hit harder than physical ones, there are wounds money can't fix, pains no apology can soothe. And when someone begins to experience what they once caused, the impact isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It eats away at the soul because deep down they know, this is what I did to someone who truly cared for me. That realization doesn't just hurt, it reshapes them if they're humble, or destroys them if they're proud. A pattern only they can recognize, and fear. From the outside, others might not even notice, but they do. They see it in how no one believes them anymore, in how their relationships feel shallow, in how people walk away without closure, just like they once did to you. It's a pattern only they can trace back to its origin. And that origin is you. More precisely, what they did to you. That's the gift of quiet transformation. Here's what you need to understand. You didn't need to curse them. You didn't need to fight them. You only needed to survive the storm they caused so they could walk into one of their own. And when they do, they'll realize something chilling. I created this. Not you, not karma, them. And that mirror, it doesn't lie, it doesn't flinch, and it never shows mercy to the unrepentant. Don't watch the mirror, walk past it. You don't need to witness their downfall. You don't need to analyze their karma, because the moment you keep looking back, you re-enter their story. Let the mirror do what it was made to do. Let your growth be the only reflection that matters. You're not who they hurt anymore. You're no longer stuck in that chapter. You're walking forward with quiet confidence and the kind of inner peace they may never find again. In the beginning, they didn't see it, or maybe they refused to. They saw you as ordinary, replaceable, someone who was always there, always kind, always forgiving. But now that you're gone, now that your presence has become absence, something has changed. They don't miss you because you begged. They don't regret it because you punished them. They miss you because life doesn't feel the same anymore. And for the first time they realize, I didn't just lose a person, I lost a blessing. That's the difference between attention and presence. They thought you were just another person in their world, someone to pass time with, to lean on, or to control. But your value was never in the noise you made. It was in the peace you brought, in the way your presence made the room calmer, made the chaos quieter, made the future feel lighter. You didn't demand attention, you gave stability. You didn't manipulate, you uplifted. And now, the people around them feel different, shallow, conditional, restless. They look back and think, why did I feel so secure back then? Why was I better when they were in my life? They won't say it out loud, but deep down, they know. You were the anchor. You were the quiet light in their storm. They mistook your calmness for weakness, your forgiveness for foolishness, your consistency for naivete. But what they never understood was that your strength was quiet. Your kindness wasn't desperation. Your loyalty wasn't blindness. It was conscious, chosen, and rare. And now, after moving through people who offer drama instead of peace, validation instead of truth, and possession instead of love, they finally see the difference. They feel it like an echo that won't fade. I had something sacred, and I broke it. Here's the cruel trick the ego plays. It convinces people there's always someone better, that if someone holds them accountable, they're too much, that if someone walks away, they'll find better energy. And sometimes they do, for a little while, until they meet people who mirror their dysfunction instead of healing it, until they realize admiration without depth means nothing, until they're surrounded by people who want what you gave, without becoming who you were. That's when it hits them. They didn't just lose a person. They lost the peace that person carried. And peace isn't something you can fake. It's something you feel when the right soul is near. A real example, a friend who woke up too late. A man once told the story of a woman he used, mocked, and ignored. She was always kind, always patient, even when he was cruel. Eventually, she walked away. No drama, just silence. Years later, after a trail of failed relationships, betrayals, and inner collapse, he said, I thought she was boring. But she was the only one who ever truly cared, the only one who gave without expecting. I was too blind to see she was the blessing he tried reaching out. But her number had changed. She had outgrown the version of herself that tolerated his presence. She didn't hate him. She just healed beyond his reach. That's why silence is the final proof of value. There's something haunting about being ignored by someone who once cared deeply, not because they're being cruel, but because it shows they've elevated to a space where your chaos no longer has access. Your silence isn't punishment, it's evolution. It says, I was the blessing, and now I've withdrawn that blessing. They'll feel it when they try to replicate your energy and fail. They'll feel it when they meet people who only give what they're trying to get. They'll feel it in their restless nights, their unfinished conversations, their unsent messages. Let them learn without you. You were the warmth in winter, the calm in the storm, the clarity in their confusion. But now, they're left with what they chose, a life without your light. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need to say a word. You don't need to watch them spiral. You don't need to update them on your success. Your absence says everything. It says, you had something pure. You mishandled it. And now it's gone. Not out of hate, but out of self-respect. You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't have to expose them. You didn't have to seek revenge. Because life, patient and precise, has a way of returning the very experiences they gave you, wrapped in a disguise they can't escape. It's not punishment, it's reflection. And the lesson always lands hardest when it arrives dressed like their own behavior. The setup is quiet. The impact is brutal. They made you feel small, now they're belittled. They made you feel invisible, now they're ignored. They exploited your empathy, now they're used by someone who fakes it better. And here's the twist, they don't even realize it at first. At first, they feel drawn to someone new, thinking, this is exciting, this feels powerful, but it's not power, it's familiarity. They've just met a version of themselves, and soon enough, they'll taste the same bitterness they once served you, the emotional trap they can't escape. You remember what it felt like, constant confusion, doubting your worth, waiting for clarity that never came, being blamed for things you didn't do. Now they live in that fog, unsure if they're too much, not enough, or quietly resented by everyone around them. Welcome to the emotional chaos they created. It's not fun when the mirror doesn't flatter. It's terrifying when you realize you're trapped in the same web you once spun for someone else. Why doesn't karma show up the way they expect? Because they expect karma to look dramatic. A car crash, a scandal, a public fall from grace. But karma is far more sophisticated. It sends them someone who uses their insecurities against them. Someone who makes them question their worth, who praises them in public but undermines them in private. Someone who love bombs them, then goes cold, withdrawing emotionally right when they start to care. And just like that, they find themselves chasing closure from someone who mirrors everything they once were. It's poetic and painful, because there's no hiding from yourself. The moment of realization builds slowly. One morning, they wake up exhausted, not from work, but from emotional weight. And the thought creeps in, wait, is this how I made them feel? The shame is quiet, but deep, and it lingers, especially because they can't apologize to themselves. They might try to apologize to you, but by then, you've grown too far. You're no longer available to validate their awakening. You've become untouchable, not out of spite, but evolution. You were the lesson they never saw coming. In hurting you, they thought they were in control, but life made you their mirror, their reckoning, their unspoken teacher. Now, every time they're mistreated, ghosted, dismissed or manipulated, they're reminded of you. Not because you're doing anything, but because their own actions have found their way back home. That's karma, not revenge, just a deeply personal education. Emotional intelligence. Here's why you don't need to witness it. Let go of the urge to check in, to see if they're suffering, to track the ripple effect. Emotionally intelligent people don't need proof. They know that what you do to others, especially to those who meant you well, always comes back. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but always precisely. So instead of watching their karma unfold, focus on your own peace, your new boundaries, your quiet confidence. Let their storm rage. You're building something stronger, your strength. You didn't become what hurt you. That's what makes you powerful. You didn't mirror their cruelty. You didn't turn bitter, manipulative, or cold. You healed. You grew. And now you're the version of yourself they could never break. That realization, that you made it out while they stayed trapped in their own cycle, is the most humbling consequence of all. There's something uniquely frustrating about watching someone hurt you and walk away as if nothing happened, smiling, thriving, praised by others, untouched by the wreckage they left behind. You sit there, heartbroken, mind spinning, wondering, do they ever pay for what they did? Do they just get to walk away? But that's where most people misunderstand the nature of divine justice. It doesn't show up on your timeline. It shows up when it teaches the deepest lesson. And when it does, it doesn't whisper. It transforms their entire life. Why justice doesn't come early. If justice arrived the moment someone hurt you, they'd never understand it. They'd dismiss it as bad luck, blame someone else, or call it karma for another mistake. But when it comes later, after they've convinced themselves they were right, after they've settled into the illusion of winning, after they've forgotten how they treated you, that's when it hits hardest. Because now there's no confusion, no one else to blame, no coincidence to hide behind, just silence and reckoning. The delay is your protection. You might think justice delayed is justice denied, but sometimes that delay is for your own growth. If karma had arrived instantly, you might have stayed around to witness it, still emotionally entangled, still looking over your shoulder, still needing to see them fall. But now you've outgrown the need to watch. You've healed too far to care, and that's why it works so perfectly. When you no longer need to see it, when you're no longer obsessed with closure, that's usually when it happens. And ironically, you won't even feel joy, just confirmation. Life doesn't move on your clock. It moves in divine rhythm. We live in a world obsessed with speed, fast answers, fast results, fast karma. But spiritual justice doesn't work like a vending machine. It works like seasons. There's a planting season, a growing season, a silent season, and finally, a harvest. What they did planted the seeds, but the fruit takes time to ripen. And when it does, it doesn't just show them what they did, it confronts them with who they've become. That's far more powerful than any quick revenge. You don't need to be there when it happens. You might imagine that one day they'll call, admit everything, beg for forgiveness. But here's what really happens. They sit in silence too, ashamed to reach out. They remember you in moments they can't explain. They see your name, your face, your energy in every act of kindness they'll never experience again. And they carry that weight alone because that's what divine justice does. It isolates those who never valued true connection. A real story, the one who laughed too soon. There was a woman whose husband left her for someone more exciting. He gloated on social media, bragged about his upgrade, humiliated her publicly. She stayed silent, rebuilt her life, healed in private. 5 years later, his new relationship collapsed. He was left alone, bankrupt, estranged from his children. She never responded to his messages, not because she hated him, but because she no longer lived in the same emotional world. She said, "By the time life gave him what he deserved, I no longer needed to see it. I had my peace, and that was enough." That's emotional intelligence. Let the delay humble you, not break you. When justice takes its time, don't let bitterness rot your spirit. Don't assume silence means God, or life, or the universe forgot. Instead, use that time to build your spiritual discipline, your emotional resilience, your psychological clarity, your sense of self-worth that no one can steal. Because when justice comes, it won't just deal with them, it will elevate you. When justice finally arrives, you'll barely notice, because you'll have outgrown the pain. And that's the beauty of the divine delay. By the time those who hurt you face their consequences, you won't be waiting. You'll be thriving. And maybe, just maybe, when they finally realize what's happening, they'll look at your name, shake their head, and whisper, "I shouldn't have done them like that. That was my blessing, and I lost it forever." Sometimes, what feels like rejection is actually redirection. And what feels like abandonment is actually protection. You thought they left you. You thought the door closed because you weren't enough. But what if it wasn't their choice at all? What if God removed you first? You didn't walk away. You were pulled out. There are moments in life that make no sense when they happen. A relationship ends suddenly. A job opportunity slips away. A friend you trusted turns against you. A betrayal cuts from behind. You blame yourself. You replay every detail. You think, maybe if I did more, maybe if I gave more. But here's the truth. You weren't meant to stay. You were being pulled out of a space that would have destroyed your spirit. You just didn't see it yet. God sees the conversations you're not in. You don't know what they said about you behind closed doors. You don't see the traps they were planning. You don't hear the laughter that came while you were crying. But God does. He hears what you never would have believed. He sees the patterns you were too loyal to question, and instead of giving you more signs, He gave you an exit. It may have felt violent, sudden, confusing, but it was surgical. He removed you from poison before it reached your soul. It didn't fall apart. It fell into place. We often pray for peace, for clarity, for strength. But we rarely realize that to receive those things, some structures in our lives have to collapse. And when they do, it feels like loss, but it's not. Your prayer was heard. You just didn't recognize the answer. The friendship ended, the relationship broke, the connection died, but your peace began, your clarity increased, and your soul finally started to heal. That's not a loss, that's liberation, that's deliverance. Real life example. She disappeared before I could ruin her. A man once admitted, "There was a woman who loved me deeply. I was selfish. I used her emotions. I lied. I manipulated. But before I could destroy her completely, she vanished. She went no contact, never explained, never returned." He continued, "Now I understand why she didn't leave me. God pulled her out before I could damage something I wasn't qualified to hold. She didn't wait for the final blow. She was rescued before it landed." That's what spiritual discipline looks like. Trusting the exit without needing closure. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is trust the silence. Trust the unanswered prayer. Trust the door that slammed shut without warning. But real faith doesn't demand full understanding. it moves forward anyway. You don't need to know why it ended. You don't need to know what they said. You don't even need an apology. What you need is to trust that your protection was prioritized over your comfort. God removed you, not because you were weak, but because you were precious. Your absence was your salvation. The moment you disappeared from their life, they lost access to your grace, your loyalty, your light. They didn't notice it at first, but eventually, when things stopped feeling right, they realized something sacred had been withdrawn. And by then, you were unreachable. Not because you were hiding, but because divine protection is a one-way door. Once it closes, it doesn't reopen, not for manipulation, not for false apologies, not for nostalgia, only for truth. And by the time they're ready to be honest, you've already healed. Your job now is to honor the exit. You don't need to chase explanations. You don't need to re-enter a room God already pulled you from. You don't need to fix what was never yours to carry. Instead, build your inner peace. Guard your spirit. Stay aligned with your purpose. Respect the quiet exits God orchestrated for your growth. Because the ones who hurt you will one day realize what they lost, but by then, you'll be too far gone to reach. And that's not vengeance. That's protection fulfilled. They didn't realize your value when they had you, because light doesn't announce itself. It just shines quietly, faithfully, endlessly. You were the calm in their chaos, the forgiveness they never deserved, the understanding they never earned, the presence that made their world warmer without asking for anything in return. And they threw it away. Why? Because when people are used to dysfunction, they confuse peace with boredom. And when they're addicted to control, they mistake gentleness for weakness. So they discarded you, thinking you'd always be available, thinking you'd come back, thinking you'd never realize your worth. But now, in your absence, reality is sinking in. The suffering begins quietly. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts with small, ordinary cracks. A conversation that falls flat because you're not there to carry it. A rough day with no one to soothe them. A moment of fear with no calming voice. An achievement with no one who truly cares. That's when your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. They scroll through old messages. They check your social media in silence. They think about reaching out, but don't, because they know they broke something they can't rebuild. They won't admit it, but they feel it deeply. You were the one who listened when they couldn't express themselves. You stayed when they pushed everyone else away. You gave and gave until they assumed it was your default setting. Now, they're surrounded by noise but no connection, surrounded by people but no peace. They're in relationships but feel completely alone. They might post like they're winning, laugh like they've moved on, smile like they've healed. But in the quiet moments, they remember you, not because of who they were with you, but because of who they'll never be again without you. Why? Because regret runs deeper than guilt. This isn't just, I feel bad for what I did. This is spiritual regret, the kind that whispers, you'll never find someone like that again. They hurt the safest place they ever had. They lost their blessing, and it's not coming back. Guilt is about actions. Regret is about consequences. But silent regret, that's about identity. They're not just sad they lost you. They're shattered by who they became to push you away. And the worst part, there's no going back. Emotional intelligence. Why your silence hurts more than revenge. They expected rage. They expected confrontation. They were ready for arguments, blame, emotional drama. But you gave them none of it. You gave them silence. And that silence became a mirror reflecting everything they tried to avoid. The lies, the betrayal, the manipulation, the cowardice. Because silence doesn't defend itself, it simply exposes what words can't. And in that silence, they finally saw themselves. Real life parallel. I didn't realize she was the last person who truly cared. A man once said, "I broke up with her like it was nothing. I thought she was too sensitive, too emotional. I wanted someone who challenged me less. Now I realize she was the only one who ever loved me without an agenda, and I pushed her away trying to feel powerful." He didn't cry when she left. He cried 2 years later, alone, successful on paper, surrounded by shallow people who only liked the version of him he faked. He said, "Now I understand. Losing her wasn't a moment. It was the slow collapse of everything real in my life. You were never too much. You were more than they could hold. They told you, you're too emotional. You care too much." But now they miss that emotion. They crave that depth. They ache for that sincerity. You weren't too much. You were everything. They just didn't have the capacity to receive it. You were light in a world that preferred darkness. Your power. You didn't have to prove anything. You didn't chase. You didn't explain. You didn't beg to be understood. You walked away with quiet dignity. And now they live with the reality that your silence is louder than their excuses. They'll never admit it, but they'll always feel it. Because once you've experienced real peace, nothing else compares. And once you've lost it, you never stop searching. You were kind. They were cruel. You gave endlessly. They took without remorse. You loved from the soul. They used you to fill a void. And when it ended, they walked away with a smirk, while you were left picking up the pieces of a heart they never intended to protect. The world looked on and saw nothing, no apology, no justice, no closure. But what the world didn't see, God did. He saw the nights you cried silently, the posts you deleted, the texts you never sent, the pain you buried just to function. He saw the battle behind your eyes when you smiled in front of others. He saw the betrayal, the gaslighting, the manipulation, and when you thought no one would ever speak for you, he took notes, not in rage, but in precision. Because God's justice doesn't arrive on your timeline, it arrives on His. The scales of justice don't rust in silence. Just because you didn't retaliate doesn't mean they got away with it. God doesn't measure by public outcomes. He measures by private motives. They thought they escaped, but what they didn't understand is this: the delay of justice is not the denial of it. Sometimes God lets them believe they're winning, so when the fall comes, they'll have no one to blame but their own reflection. That's not revenge, that's divine balance. Why their life begins to unravel in unexpected ways. It's never dramatic, it's never instant, but slowly things begin to decay. Their relationships lose depth, their trust collapses, their reputation erodes through quiet whispers. Their confidence turns into paranoia, and they start to feel it, a weight with no name. They can't explain why peace avoids them, why nothing truly satisfies, why success feels hollow, why love feels distant. It's not a curse, it's consequence. Because when you violate the sacred energy of a soul that meant no harm, the universe reconfigures itself to teach you. God doesn't avenge for entertainment, He restores for purpose. He doesn't hurt them just to make you feel better. He humbles them to give them a chance to reflect. Because divine justice isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's revelation. It's the moment they wake up one day and whisper, "I had something real, and I destroyed it." It's the moment they realize that every prayer you once whispered over them is now the protection you carry into your next chapter without them. Spiritual discipline means trusting invisible justice. You may never see their breakdown. You may never hear their apology. You may never know how much they regret. But justice isn't for your entertainment. It's for your evolution. You didn't walk away with proof. You walked away with peace. And that peace, that's your reward. Let God handle what they did. Let the universe echo the pain they caused. Let silence speak where your voice no longer needs to. You don't have to tell your story to the world. God already wrote it in full. You didn't lose. You were preserved. While they played with your loyalty, God was preparing something greater. While they laughed at your pain, He was building your next level. And when they finally fall into the hole they dug for you, you won't even be looking back. You'll be too far ahead, too healed, too blessed, too elevated to return to the place you were rescued from. Let unseen justice unfold while you rise in silence. Because the greatest act of spiritual confidence is this: to no longer need their apology, their explanation, or their downfall. You don't rise by dragging others down. You rise by refusing to sink with them. And when God sees that, He restores you, elevates you, and protects you, because you honored His justice by never becoming like those who hurt you. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't trend on social media. No spotlight, no applause, no hashtag. It's the power of restraint, the power of not clapping back, of not matching their energy, of not becoming what broke you. To the world, that looks like weakness. But to heaven, it looks like wisdom, because anyone can react, but few can remain composed when every part of them wants to scream. Heaven watches what man ignores. When they mocked your silence, God was noting your strength. When they laughed while you cried, He was recording your faithfulness. They thought they got away with it, but God was watching what you would do with the pain. Would you seek vengeance? Would you destroy them back? Would you betray your own soul just to feel powerful for a moment? You didn't. You chose restraint, and restraint is the language of kings. Why silence is sacred in spiritual warfare. Your silence never meant surrender. It meant strategy. It meant you refused to fight battles that didn't belong to you. It meant you recognized, what I'm dealing with isn't just flesh and blood, it's spiritual. And my victory doesn't need to be loud. You let God fight what your hands couldn't. You didn't block their karma by trying to speed it up. You didn't sabotage your own growth by chasing closure. You held the line. You kept your peace. And heaven took notice. The reward isn't revenge. It's restoration. It's elevation. You won't always get revenge, but you will get restoration. And that's far more powerful. Peace that can't be stolen. Joy that isn't dependent on who stays. Relationships that align with your healed self. Opportunities that feel like divine compensation. Confidence that no longer needs validation. You'll look around one day and realize, what I thought I lost was nothing compared to what I was being prepared for. Because God doesn't repay you with pity, He repays you with purpose. Real life parallel. The one who stayed silent rose the highest. There was a woman who was publicly humiliated by someone she trusted. She never exposed him, never fought online, never told the full story. People called her weak. 3 years later, she built a company, wrote a book, found love that honored her. And the man? Still stuck in cycles of shallow validation. She didn't rise by revenge, she rose by resilience. That's what restraint does. It builds your throne while others play in the mud. The most terrifying thing to those who hurt you isn't your anger, it's your growth. Because you didn't stay broken, you didn't stay angry, you didn't stay trapped in the chapter they left you in. You became the living proof that divine justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it rises. You became something untouchable, and now they can't reach you. Not because you're cold, but because you're healed. They expected your silence to be passive, but it was sacred. It was your shield. It was your sword. It was your transformation in progress. God's greatest reward is not what you gain, it's who you become. In choosing peace, you became powerful. In choosing restraint, you found clarity. In choosing not to fight evil with evil, you broke generational patterns. That's the reward. You didn't just survive the betrayal. You became wiser, more grounded, more aligned with your purpose. Now you walk with quiet confidence, not because life didn't wound you, but because it couldn't break what God was building within you. Conclusion. So next time they wonder how you're still standing, how you're still glowing, how you're still growing without them, tell them this: I gave it to God, and He gave me back myself. You didn't lose. You were preserved. You were protected. And now you've been promoted. They hurt you. They walked away. They thought you'd never recover. But what they didn't know was that silence was your weapon, and God was your witness. You didn't beg. You didn't break. You became unshakable. And now you don't even need to prove them wrong. Your peace already did. So if you're walking this road, if you've ever been betrayed, discarded, or mocked for staying silent, know this: heaven has heard every silent tear. Justice is already moving behind the scenes, and your next chapter will not be written by those who tried to destroy you. It will be written by the strength you chose when you could have chosen revenge. If this message spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs this truth. And remember to subscribe to Nexusmind for weekly wisdom to help you master emotional intelligence, protect your peace, and rise with quiet power. Comment below. I choose peace over revenge. I choose growth over bitterness. Let the world know which side of the battle you stand on. Your silence is not weakness. It's spiritual discipline, and it will take you further than noise ever could. The war is over, but your rise has just begun.